Surfaced which suggests that the Ukrainian Defense Forces destroyed a Russian freight train that was carrying fuel.
The jammers look like they worked here. The second drone though dives in from the front to make a direct attack on the train and looks to hit one of these jammers.
At 5:42 a.m., more than 30 drones tore through Russian air defenses and zeroed in on a fuel train outside Rostov. Within minutes, the countryside turned into a burning battlefield. But here's the question. Was this just a single strike, or the start of a multi-layered operation meant to choke Russia's supply lines?
Just coming in, reports that have now emerged that the Ukrainian Defense Forces destroyed a Russian freight train with fuel.
Stick around, because what unfolded next wasn't random destruction. It was an orchestrated campaign that combined drones, demolition bots, and airstrikes in a way Russia never expected. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. How did 30 drones slip past Russian defenses and converge on a single moving target, a train thought to be untouchable? That puzzle starts in the early hours, with unmanned craft skimming just above treetops, their radar signatures nearly invisible to the stations, placed specifically to spot them. The target was not random. It was a billion-dollar artery in Russia's supply chain, the Rostov rail hub, carrying the fuel and ammunition needed to sustain large formations at the front. Every kilometer of that route had been hardened with escorts, sensors, and jamming equipment. And yet, 30 drones still arrived over the exact stretch of track where the train would be at that moment. The train itself ran heavy with protection. Armored cars were positioned at the front and back. Electronic warfare units rode along, constantly scattering interference across the spectrum to blind enemy eyes in the sky.
The jammers look like they worked here. The second drone though dives in from the front to make a direct attack on the train and looks to hit one of these jammers.
Radar dishes mounted nearby scan for movement overhead, feeding data back to command posts watching from dozens of kilometers away. The setup was meant to signal that no drone could touch this cargo. It was a moving fortress, built to warn anyone who might consider an attack that it would end in failure. That belief lasted only until the morning when the drones arrived.
So the Russian railway communication that has been disrupted as a result of the latest offensive carried out by the Ukrainian forces.
The Ukrainian Maluk 5-2 drones operated low, nearly brushing the tree line as they swept forward in coordinated waves. These were not heavy bombers, but small, maneuverable machines acting first as spotters. By keeping so low, they avoided radar detection and followed the tree canopies until they reached visual range.
Reports suggest that Russian freight train has derailed after an explosion rocked this particular place. In fact, this specific freight train.
Then, using encrypted channels, they locked onto the train's position, syncing their movement with the speed of the armored convoy. This allowed them to match rhythm with the rails, gliding silently a few hundred meters away, while directing strike elements to precise points on the train. Their chosen target surprised many analysts later. They did not go for the lead locomotive or the armored escort cars. Instead, they marked the 14th tanker car holding diesel. The calculation was clear. A strike on fuel would not only disable, but could trigger a cascading blaze. At the right point in the line, the entire segment behind that car would be engulfed.
It looks like there may be 8 fuel tankers burning here, maybe even more. So, multiple drones were used in this attack here.
This was precision mixed with sabotage, designed to magnify damage far beyond the initial blast. The first drone dived suddenly, ignoring the decoys mounted on top of several wagons, and drove its payload directly into the steel side of the chosen car. Moments later, a violent flash tore across the countryside. Aviation fuel erupted, sending a shockwave through the convoy. Flames spread in seconds. Pressure built inside the adjacent tankers until one after another exploded down the line.
What we're seeing here is an extraordinary assault that not only is it a demonstration of Ukraine's ability to innovate.
Surfaced which suggests that the Ukrainian Defense Forces destroyed a Russian freight train that was carrying fuel.
It was no single detonation, but a rolling chain reaction that expanded with each passing moment. Within 7 minutes, 13 cars had been ripped from the rails. Steel tracks crumpled and curled under the intensity of the heat. The rear section of the train was consumed, black smoke piling into the early morning air. The countryside, silent just minutes before, turned into a furnace. Local residents heard the roar miles away, assuming at first it was an air attack, not realizing it had all come from drones the size of motorcycles.
Strike Russia where it's not expecting it. It's also a clear indication that Russia is not invincible.
The rail system, thought to be secure for years, was brought to a halt in less than 10 minutes. The aftermath left more than wreckage. For Russia, it silenced a vital artery. Fuel flows interrupted here rippled across hundreds of kilometers of frontline positions. Commanders suddenly faced shortages not only of diesel, but of trust in their own defenses. This was exactly the point. It was not merely about wrecking metal, but about showing that no amount of escorts or jammers could fully guarantee security.
The first one here, we can see photos showing the aftermath of a strike by multiple drones on a Russian fuel train in the Zaporizhia region.
By transforming a quiet stretch of countryside into an inferno, Ukraine had pierced the illusion of invulnerability. And yet, even with the intensity of this strike, it was not the end goal. Analysts observing the timing and coordination understood it as an opening act. The strike demonstrated a method, a proof that synchronized actions across multiple systems could break through defenses thought impermeable. The real question was whether this was intended as a singular shock aimed at one railway hub, or if it signaled the launch of a broader campaign meant to unravel Russia's entire logistics web.
Its victory in Ukraine is inevitable. This extraordinary operation shows that Ukraine is still in this fight.
What came next would determine if this burning train was an isolated disaster or just a prelude to a far-reaching strategy. The strike on Rostov was never about one train. It showed how layered attacks, drones, precision strikes, and timed sabotage can break even the strongest logistics networks.
Ukraine can indeed perform well on the battlefield, something that was a little bit belittled.
A billion-dollar lifeline collapsed in minutes, proving supply hubs once thought secure can fall quickly under coordinated pressure. If Russia's most guarded route was vulnerable, then no military supply chain is truly safe. Modern warfare is shifting. Autonomous drones, demolition systems, and guided munitions are rewriting the battlefield.
Worth it. We've done so much to help in this effort, in this conflict. Drones, multiple vehicles.
The question left hanging is whether global powers are ready for this kind of disruption, or if future wars will be decided by networks, not armies.